Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a really wonderful episode going on today of the CEO Story. We've got Brian Sloan, who is the founder and CEO of Autoblow.com. That's right, you heard me, Autoblow.com. Brian, thank you for taking the time to join us. Can you share a little bit about what you do and your company?
Yeah, sure. I invent sex toys for men, mainly a device for men, an automatic device for men called the Autoblow. And yeah, I invent the device, I manufacture the device, and we market and sell that online. And we sell that to thousands of offline retailers globally.
Amazing. So that is such an interesting kind of industry and segment to be involved in. Can we just rewind a little bit? Because initially you started off at law school, but never really practiced law. So can we share a little bit about your background? You've had a great experience over in China and all around the world. And what kind of led you into this industry and obviously made it very successful for yourself?
Yeah. So after college, like a lot of people who didn't know what to do with themselves, I went to law school, and yeah, law school was a fantastic experience. But 1 year when I was in law school, started to meet people who were lawyers, and I noticed a trend of unhappiness amongst them. Almost all of them were unhappy with their career choices. And it happened that while I was in law school, a friend of mine took me to an antique auction, and I bought an old Monopoly game there. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I could flip that on eBay. So I bought this old game. I made something like $100 selling it on eBay. And that really spun me in a different direction. I realized that working as a lawyer, being paid by the hour, wasn't going to really ever be scalable for me. And at least at that time, what I knew was that selling things was at least more scalable than working as a lawyer. So during law school, I started buying things from antique auctions, selling them on eBay. And when I got to the end of law school, I realized that I would just wanted to continue doing that. So long story short, I then went back to Chicago, started buying from bankruptcy auctions, selling stuff on eBay, eventually going to China to buy things to sell on eBay. And
Question for
then
you there, Brian.
this later led me to, yeah.
You mentioned that first flip that you did that kind of got you hooked in the world of entrepreneurship, let's say. But
Yeah.
this was after you'd already started your law degree.
Yeah.
What would you, if you could have done things differently prior to starting your law degree or had some advice, what would that be for someone?
Uh, I mean, I don't think that it was a mistake that I went to law school. I think that I had a fantastic experience. I think it let me sharpen my brain in many ways that helped me later sharpen my skills. Uh, but I think that people often tie education to career. And I think for all of the most successful people I know, education is not tied to career uh, at all. People think, well, I'll go learn about this thing, and then I'll do that thing that I learned about in my degree. The degree is interesting, and it's a good way to meet people and learn about new ideas. But I think, at least for the successful, most successful people I know, the degree wasn't related to what they ended up doing later. So I think to tie those two things together is very limiting.
Interesting. Okay. And then you fast forwarded into doing more flips. Then what got you from the antique dealership into the bankruptcy auctions? That was a big step.
So auctions in general, I saw I could buy things from antique auctions. That was interesting. I had an interesting market for that in South Central Pennsylvania where people weren't really selling on eBay. But once law school finished and I didn't have a great supply of these antique auctions, I just realized I need to buy other stuff because around Chicago there aren't 20 antique auctions every day. And I discovered that there were still a ton of auctions, but just not for antiques. They were bankruptcy auctions. So at that time, and all the time, factories were going out of business, stores were closing. Uh, uh, Mainly, it was factories or businesses closing. So I just started learning about all different kinds of auctions by attending the auctions and uh, and buying what I could buy low and selling, on eBay. So it was really just necessity that made me move from antiques to bankruptcy auctions.
And then was there a lot of trial and error in terms of what hit and what made you money and what didn't, or what was kind of some of the methodology or thinking behind certain purchases?
Well, at the time, I was sort of obsessed at that time with eBay. I spent, I think hours every day looking at the finished auctions on eBay to understand the value of all kinds of things. At the height of my auction going, I would walk into a room and I would say, I know how much, those tables go for, this kind of light or that chair or that espresso machine or whatever. So mainly it was learning what the value of all kinds of objects were, and even weird objects. I'd search on eBay blood pressure machines, and just look at all the finished auctions. I learned, oh, that brand is like a current brand. That's an old brand. That's in that kind of stuff is out. And also at the time, and this was in 2005, it wasn't normal at the time to have internet for your computer outside of your home. So I bought one of the early, I don't think even that was 3G, that was some kind of 2G internet stick. It was kind of expensive at the time. So I would go into the auction, I would look at the stuff, and then I would have my laptop in my car with one of those adapters, lets you plug in your laptop. And I had my 2G, and I could go look at the finished auctions on site, which at the time gave me an advantage. There weren't other people at that time out in their car looking up the prices. You sort of were stuck, or some people would get on the phone. They had an office. They would call their office and say, "Oh, there's this stuff here," and then they would look up this stuff. But I brought it to the auction, this 2G stick. So this was my advantage at the time.
That is awesome. Just to think back to how much technology has evolved over the years, where now you can pretty much run a multi-million-dollar business just from your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Great. Okay, so then we'll fast forward into your move to China. So how did that come about? And then obviously you spent a lot of time there. So how did you like it over there compared to Chicago?
Yeah, it was great. I lasted 10 years. What got me over there was that, well, first I went there. A friend of mine's brother from law school told me there was an antique market in Beijing. And he told me, if you can't go to that market and find something that you can bring back to the United States to make money on, you must be an idiot. So I said, okay, I'll try a vacation to China and go to this antique market for a few weekends in a row. It's a weekend market. And so I did that a single time, thinking that was going to be, something cool. Oh, I could pay for one trip by buying stuff. But it turned out that I went back on multiple additional trips over the next 2 years, met a very interesting community of entrepreneurs and people from all over the world, including, of course, China. And I decided that's where I wanted to start the next phase of my life. And during that time, this kind of got me onto the adult side of selling things. I later learned, in the same way that working as a lawyer wasn't scalable, buying things from auctions and hauling them to my apartment and then listing them on eBay also was not scalable. So I looked for something on eBay that seemed to have a limited supply, and I found the niche of latex fetish wear. So that was rubber suits, S&M kind of equipment, like rubber bags that people are trapped in with all kinds of customizations. And I found a supplier in China from Alibaba. I started listing those on eBay. And so then I started to understand the world of latex fetish, what kind of stuff was needed. I started making things for people who are big and tall, in particular, who couldn't order stuff from very expensive suppliers in England or Germany. And so when I went to China, my plan was, I'm going to learn how to sell my fetish wear online with a website directly. That was sort of my only plan. I thought I can support myself with the antique auctions, and I'll also just find someone to make me a website to get off of eBay and onto the internet directly.
Let's break that down, because there's a lot going on in that couple of sentences. So you honed in on an industry or a niche that you saw there was a high demand and there was a low supply of people competing in that area. And then you went about creating the infrastructure to build that out. And then rather than just sell on eBay, you created your own third-party website that you can control and build that relationship directly with the end customer, so that you can kind of create your own fan base and following at that point.
Yeah, exactly. What I did, I had a website built, which at first was poorly built. I didn't realize, but the most valuable thing I had was the email address of everyone who ever purchased from me on eBay. I mean, fetish wear, not antiques. Whoever purchased fetish wear from you, and everyone who ever emailed me with a question to ask about the fetish wear who wasn't a purchaser. So at the time I launched the website, and this wasn't a huge number of email addresses, but let's say it's a thousand people, but these are 1,000 fetish wear buyers. So that's a valuable email list. So when I put up the website, I emailed all of those people, hey, now you can get this stuff from us directly, and I'll give you a special deal to be one of our first customers. And we started the business just like that with those maybe 1,000 contacts I made on eBay.
Fantastic. It's all about keeping a really solid list, keeping it current, and obviously offering that list what they really want, right? And I think that's key is once you get that message and that branding aligned with the contact itself and what they really want, you're going to hit home run after home run.
Yeah, especially in that we were, I worked out with this workshop. It's not even a factory because this is all handmade clothing items that's cut and glued latex. Especially in that email, we say any customizations that you want that are difficult for you to get from England or Germany, I'm happy to make them for you and at a low cost. For example, we could add zippers anywhere they wanted. We could add um, you could use very thick rubber, which was very hard to get from other suppliers. We could do all of these things that they could build their sort of dream fetish outfit or piece of equipment. And that was very attractive to the buyers, that they could get exactly what they wanted.
Is that what then led you down the invention route? Because you're now customizing what was just a simple product into something very specific, whether it's tall on big, or how did you then go from this e-commerce
Yeah.
brand to inventor?
So actually, selling the fetish wear online, um, once we sort of really got into it and I started getting customers, I also realized that that wasn't as scalable as I once thought, because the universe of fetish wear buyers compared to the buyers of other things is relatively small. It's a profitable world, but it's a small world. So I just started looking at other opportunities. I knew that people didn't. Why could I make decent money on fetish wear? Because there weren't that many people who wanted to get involved in selling it. So the sort of next largest category that's similar would be sex toys. Just figured it out. And once I started looking into sex toys, I realized that there was a gap in the kinds of sex toys available for men. And when I thought about what men would want, they would want something that was automatic. And while there were some automatic products available, they were built, especially at that time, this is 2007 or so, they were built as, you've heard the term adult novelty. They were really built as a novelty and not as a, a product. Like, I always think of my products as something like a kitchen appliance. That's an appliance. It's not a toy. It's not a novelty.
It's going to last
That's
for
like
a
a,
while, right? It's well built. And
exactly. That's something like you'd buy for your kitchen. That's like a waffle maker. It's not something that you use 5 times, throw away. It's something that works every time you want to use it. But at the time, so anyway, I knew that what men wanted was an automatic device. I first sourced an automatic device that was, and I white labeled it. Factory made something. I had them improve it in some very small ways, and I relabeled that as my product. And at the beginning, we built the business with this product that wasn't really my invention. It was a product that we made small improvements to. And then only once, really, after a few years of doing that and learning about the industry, then I was ready to put the money into really inventing a new product. So for years, it was marketing, it was sourcing, marketing, selling, logistics, shipping, but it wasn't really invention until around 2012 is when I said, I need to improve that original Autoblow into something that's like an appliance. I realized that's what the problem in the market was, that there were no real appliances. So 2012 to 2014, that was really the development years of the figuring out how to turn the toy into an appliance.
and then you had some really unique ways that you funded this. Can you talk a little bit about how you managed to get crowdfunding campaigns going and kind of went viral with that, really?
Yeah. So, after the development process, which was also difficult, I was a year into that process with one factory in Taiwan that failed. I lost like a full year on that development. I found the right factory, and once we got to that end stage, I needed around $300,000 to for molds and for making the first order, and I didn't have $300,000 at the time. I had an option to take forget what it's called. It's a kind of loan based on your credit card receipts. So we had a decent business going at the time, selling Autoblow and some other sex toys. Um, and for something like 25 or 30% interest, they'll give you that $300,000 and you owe them
Ridiculous amount of money.
in 9 months, you owe it back to them and you need to pay whatever, $80,000 for the luxury of borrowing it from them. So that was my option, which is a much better which I thought was a much better option than giving equity. There were people interested in buying a portion of my company for equity, but an $80,000 one-time payment would have been better than equity. But I also didn't really like the idea of an $80,000 one-time payment for borrowing 300. And a friend of mine had a crowdfunding campaign at the time for a kind of desk that I saw worked. I got deeper into this space of crowdfunding and I thought, wow, no one's ever crowdfunded a sex toy like this before at that time, Indiegogo. So I decided, I got the idea like on a Monday, and I think by Friday I had filmed this embarrassing video and gotten it edited and put it up on Indiegogo.
Fantastic. And then how much did you end up raising on Indiegogo?
So at the time we pre-sold, something like $300,000 of that product, and the campaign itself went viral around the world. There were links from everywhere, and the story really, and we had contacted media about this, and the story was first like, oh, now there's this machine that does XYZ, but the story really became, wait, there's a machine that does XYZ, and people are actually buying it. And they've actually, broken a record for funding this kind of product. So that's what got kind of the worldwide media interested. And once a couple of big websites got interested, then those get translated into other countries around the world. Then it just becomes a thing. So it became a thing on the internet around the world. For like a week, you had to see this news about this Autoblow 2 device that got crowdfunded, within 24 hours by all these people.
So then let's talk a little bit about, from that point, you got funded, you got the molds made, you got the 2.0 created. To go from that point to surpassing 8-figure business is really, really impressive. What were some of the big challenges that you faced when scaling at that point?
So there's two ways that we scaled the business. I mean, one big challenge was getting focused. We thought that we could use money at first from Autoblow to create other brands of sex toys. We had at one time a women's brand, another men's brand. We sourced all kinds of products from factories and put our brand on those products. We tried to go really wide with the product selection, and we scaled very slowly using that profit to create other brands. When we did that for years, but with relatively high risk for inventory that sometimes just died because there wasn't enough demand for that kind of other product. And once we started selling more Autoblows through, we sold through web and we started selling to retailers. And once the product got into stores across the US and Canada and into distribution in Europe, then we really saw the potential of, how big this space was just for one good automatic, machine for men. And we closed down all of the other brands. I liquidated about $500,000 of inventory. I sold that to a chain in the United States for about $125,000. Just took the loss to get out of the space of all of those products. I shipped them 350 4-foot whatever truckloads of my stuff, and they were very happy to get it for their store. And then we were very happy to be able to only focus on one key website, the Autoblow website, and only the Autoblow brand. And from that point, once we got super laser focused, we found it much easier to, I wouldn't say easy, but we found it much easier at least to focus on building the brand. And also all of the people who had seen the Autoblow online over the years through our advertising or through our PR efforts, all of those views of the brand and information had built on itself. So the brand sort of grew because of all the exposure that it had, and that exposure compounds. If you're advertised, you see something one time, maybe you don't buy it. But once you've seen that thing 27 times and it's been 4 years, maybe then you're ready to buy the product. So we saw the growth, I think, just from the exposure compounding.
Fantastic. I think there's a lot of key things there as well. So the main one is don't spread yourself too thin, right? is to stay focused on where the bread and butter is and go deep on that, rather than, like, the wider you go, the less attention you can give every single
Yeah,
product.
and we really, I wouldn't say it's a mistake because we learned the lesson and we learned about all the other niches. We had to learn for ourselves that there wasn't a future for us in women's toys. There wasn't a future for us in dildos. There wasn't a future for us in things that other people could do better than us. But we thought that we could just use that money and make a product that was as similar as possible to everyone else's, and maybe no one would notice that it's ours and not theirs. But then you're really just competing on price on a commodity. So we totally got out of anything that's a commodity product and only into things where we add our unique value through marketing and through the technology of our invention.
And I think life in general comes back to that point that you just made. It's all about adding value, and however you can do that and however much value you add, you'll find your own place in the market somewhere. So,
Probably, maybe. Depends, yeah, if you can add that value or not, but yeah.
well, that's the key. If you don't add the value, it
Yeah.
won't last long, whatever it is. I like to end with one question, just to kind of get a little insight into your mind. Is, if you had to attribute your success to three factors, how would you apportion between the three? Those three being drive, skill, and luck.
Drive, I think it's like, I think, let's start with luck, okay? There was some luck. I'll tell you what the luck is. There's two pieces that come into my mind about luck. One is that I met my business partner on a freelancing website a long time ago, 2007. And it turned out that that guy was awesome. And we've worked together to really build the business together since then. It's very lucky that I met such a motivated and smart guy who I was able to work with for so long, and we became, great friends. Like, this is hard to meet someone like that who has that right skill set on the technical and marketing side. He's a technical person, but we discuss all our marketing things together. So that was, I think, lucky. What was skill, I think, he lives in Romania. I went to Romania to meet him and make the relationship real. I think that's a step. You might meet someone online, but do you fly to their country and say, you're great, I need to meet you in person and we need to, take this forward? I think that is a kind of skill and an ability to take a risk that maybe other people don't have. The other piece that's a little bit luck, during COVID, for example, my business grew a lot. And most people, almost everyone in the adult product space, business grew a lot during COVID. And, we had to be prepared with skill to receive that luck. We needed all of our systems in place, our logistics, like lockdown. We needed our warehousing. Look, we needed to set up all of those things for many years. So we were able during COVID to take advantage of the luck, in a way, of the extra volume. People were stuck at home. So our industry got lucky in that way. But I think that's the first time that I think meeting my business partner and this thing that happened during COVID, those are kind of luck. Skill, I think I developed that over the years by self-learning. And that was very important because it's not like someone taught me those skills. I just had to do it, right? So what was the third thing you asked?
It was drive.
Drive. Yeah, sorry, drive. Yeah, I used to be nocturnal. I would be up when I lived in China at first. I was in the latex business. I was up all night. I would, hang out during the day. I'd work from 10 at night till 4 or 5 in the morning. I had a very strange sleep schedule. So I would call that drive as well. And also, I think there's something that you miss, which is patience. It took us from the day that we started the business to our first, year selling $1 million. That was several years. That was, I don't know, maybe after 3 years, we got to $1 million. Then maybe after another 3 years, we got to 3 or 4 or 5 million, right? And then we got to 8 figures only after 10 years of doing that. So I think being patient is also one of the key things. Someone else might not have the patience. I think most people right now don't have the patience to wait 3 years to get to $1 million of sales a year. They would become impatient and try to do something else. Especially because people read about quick success on the internet, or people try to sell. There's a lot of, I hate online gurus. trying to sell people the idea of quick success selling on Amazon or quick success doing anything. I never met, and I know hundreds of entrepreneurs, I never met anyone who would say they had a quick success at anything. And
Totally
the people
agree.
that
Exactly.
especially the people I know who are maybe well known in their space, before they were well known, they were unknown, and they were unknown for most of their life until maybe they were 40 years old. And then, oh, that guy's doing that. It's like, yeah, that guy's been doing that for 15 years. But now he got very successful at it after doing the same thing for 15 years. So
Yeah, I think that's just the world that we live in right now, where the media wants to sensationalize everything, and it brainwashes a lot of people into thinking that that's actually true, and people in the know realize that it definitely isn't.
yeah.
Brian, thank you so much for your time and sharing. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
They could just submit if you go to the our company website is the company is called actually Very Intelligent E-commerce. If you just Google Very Intelligent E-commerce, you'll get to our company site, and the contacts go to me. And if they really want to buy an Autoblow, if there's one, then they can go to autoblow.com to buy that. But
And we'll put both of those links down below just to make
yeah,
life easy for everyone. Brian, thank
fantastic.
you so much for your time. It's been amazing chatting.
Thanks for having me.